Hi everyone, I'm Leila del Duca, and today I'm talking with Jeff Parker about his latest book announcement with artist Javier Pulido on a title called Ninjak. The book was announced last week, but we won't be able to see it until 2021, not sure when. But I'm really excited to share with you what I learned about the book. It actually sounds really fun, it's a spy thriller, and Javier's art is fantastic. But first, let's talk about Jeff. Jeff is a Ringo Award winning writer. Over the past decade, he's written big action books such as Thunderbolt and Hulk, as well as creating new titles like Agents of Atlas and X-Men First Class. At DC Comics, he launched Batman 66, while also revamping Flash Gordon for Dynamite. He also most recently wrote Future Quest and James Bond Origin, and he's really hilarious. Here's the interview.
Okay.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks so much for joining me for this.
Hey, thank you, Layla. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. Congrats on the announcement.
Yeah, that went over really well.
Yeah,
I feel like people were so happy that there was just something that wasn't terrible news for a change.
yeah.
It's sad when the news cycle is such that it's just simply, hey, people working on a project is like, wow, and everybody's super happy about it. But they should be because it's going to be good.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be rad. So I am not that familiar with Ninjak. I had to research who he was a little bit. What do you find, or what do you think is the most interesting aspect of Colin King, aka Ninjak?
Well, I mean, I guess the quick pitch, if you're in a comic shop, for this character over the years is like, what if James Bond were a ninja? Um, and it's like, yeah, I can work with that. For me, what's fun is, I recently worked on the James Bond Origin series, and that's based on the Ian Fleming books and set in World War II. So it's like Bond drops out of school and joins the war because he can't wait to get in the war and avenge his friends and kill Nazis. So it's really cool from that perspective because it's fun to write Nazis getting killed and do historical stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't do a traditional James Bond story like you think of. Whereas this book actually strangely gives me that chance to kind of do that 60s Bond. And especially working with Javier Pulido, you just kind of get to do this kind of cool vibe sort of stuff with experimental storytelling and just let him do his thing.
That's so rad. Yeah, you mentioned in another interview that when you found out that Javier Pulido was drawing your comic book, you did a fist pump and a audible yell.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. You don't know who you're going to get paired with ever.
Yeah.
A lot. Well, sometimes especially if you as a team approach an editor or something. But a lot of times when they reach out to you and ask you for a pitch and all that stuff, you're just like, oh well, I hope I get along with whoever it is. And turns out it's Javier, who I had worked with years ago on a Star Brand special for Marvel. And it's one of my favorite things I ever did there largely because he just came up with so many cool ways to interpret the script. And like you've seen, like he's kind of that group like Marcos Martin, and they'll do things like cool double page spreads where characters are running through kind of like an Eisnerian sort of progression going through a building, and you get to follow along and just kind of cool stuff like that. So when I found out, the trick is, of course, like I said, staying out of his way. Like, how do you give somebody like that enough to work with and yet don't nail it down too much?
Is your process writing for him different than you use with other artists?
Not really, except I keep putting little apologies all throughout saying, sorry, you can make it whatever you want. You do have to do that. I pride myself on being able to crack a code with different artists and find a way they like to work and the kind of things they want to do, because artists get horribly stereotyped a lot of times. They draw one kind of thing and everybody thinks that's what they do. And then it's like, oh, good thing I didn't throw that reference away because I'm going to be using it the rest of my life since no one's ever going to give me another scenario. Um, so I do like to like kind of look through their art, try to talk to them a little bit. I'll tend to ask artists like, what do you hate drawing? More than what do you like drawing? Because if there's something they can't stand, that's good. It's easy enough to not put that in. Sorry. Some people do think it's all like, oh, it's got to be set in a city. It's got to be New York and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, you almost never see New York the way I see it when I'm there.
Yeah.
Like, but like for years, I used to keep putting a detail whenever I had a story set in New York, where I thought, I'll make this easy on the artist. Like, make it one of those mountains of trash bags that are out at night, right before the trash is going to come. And over and over again, people would just put like 2 trash bags against a wall. And I'm like, no, it's like a mountain. I'm not kidding. When I say that, it's like the entire building's trash is all piled up, ready for the truck to come way too early in the morning. And it's an easy thing to draw that'll look really cool as a background. And yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Tom Fowler finally actually drew what I was talking about in the story. So many times when I'm trying to make it easy on people, they still try to make it hard on themselves because they don't realize I'm it's like, no, I'm suggesting this because it's actually an easy thing to do. Like now I know if I ever work with you, I'm just like, we're going straight to the forest and it's not leaving the forest or the jungle for the entire time.
Yay! Yay! You mentioned in an interview that you love telling spy stories. Do you have a different process when approaching spy thrillers as opposed to fantasy adventures and other genres you've worked in?
It might be a little more mathematical. I think I might outline a little harder than I would one of those other things because I feel like some kind of fantasy adventure, the fun of it is being surprised. And so doing the more game theory sort of, I guess, or whatever, that's not the term, the kind of progression of like, oh, something we might take a direction that really seems to go nowhere, but is just interesting because of how strange it is. And it's not that I won't do that also in a spy story or something, but typically in spy stuff, there is a calculating villain of some sort who's planning things, and you're trying to take apart their machine in a big sense. Whereas, say, like if it were a fantasy epic quest sort of thing, it's like, let them bumble off and meet weirdos and go in holes and things like that, and don't have it be so rigid, probably.
Nice.
Maybe.
That's great. So you kind of already talked about Javier's work a little bit and what you love about him. What do you love most about Javier's storytelling and art style that you haven't already talked about?
He's clearly a very big Alex Toth guy. We've talked about it a little bit, but and probably Jordi Bernet. You can really tell in his artwork and a lot of stuff that he'll turn in. I'm like, oh man. One time I did say, it's like, this looks like Toth and Bernet had a baby and it was you. And he's like, thank you. It's a very minimal sort of look that depends more on layout and composition than like there's no feathering, no noodling or anything like that.
I'm glad you said that because I would also put him in the minimalist category, and I love minimalists in comics like Mignola, and like Nick Barber is also a minimalist. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, and then typically you'll see somebody like that, and then they'll get paired with a colorist, or the colorist is told to like really render this up to make up for how simple it is, and then it just all doesn't work at all. Like minimal art like that needs flat color, and designy color that's almost more like doing a movie poster than thinking of like local color and things like that. It's more like a composition thing, like you'll see something you'd see Dave Johnson do on his covers or something. I like studio mate Steve Lieber in that Jimmy Olsen book, I felt like Nathan Fairburn really nailed the colors on him.
Yeah.
Because Steve has I wouldn't say it's a minimal style, but he's pared down quite a bit over the years. And I felt like Fairburn really got that, like did the color scheme and also did a very light color scheme. It's funny, I remember was it a couple of weeks ago, Carl Reiner died, famous creator of Your Show of Shows, worked with Mel Brooks, and made all those Steve Martin movies and a lot of movies. Super funny guy. And there was a piece by Steve Martin in the New York Times, I think, and he was talking about when they were making The Jerk. I think it was The Jerk, or it might have been Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, or one of those. No, Man with Two Brains. Sorry, we've really gotten off track now.
All right.
This is really about Ninjak and comics, and but
Finish your thought. Yeah.
Steve Martin said that he came in when Carl Reiner was in the editing room when it was going to be color graded, when they're checking, getting the color right on the film, and Reiner told him to take it up like 3 points. And Steve's asking why, because he thought it looked good, and he goes, lighter is funnier. And I don't know why, but he's right.
Yeah.
You can sometimes see something that's a comedy and it's colored very dark and it kind of doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does. It depends on the tone and everything. But yeah, there's certain things that you can't really quantify like that, but you just know like this will work with this kind of story. And we actually, like the book we're doing, the Ninjak Daylight, it's so far, actually Javier has been doing a lot of color on his own. And I don't know if he's going to color the whole thing or somebody's just going to kind of follow what he's established as, because we're in a pandemic and it's weird. But he's been doing that, and it works because we've got a lot of humor in this story. And Lisa Hawkins, the editor, I didn't know, like, I was like, I'm going to put some jokes in here and, and have people riffing a little bit. And because I feel like this would be a fun place to do it. I mean, we're not going Austin Powers with it, but, I'm trying to lighten it up quite a bit. And it's probably just because I feel like, the world's pretty dark. We could make this more fun.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Would you also say that this Ninjak book is a good place to start for people who have never read this character before?
Oh yeah, we give you everything you need to know. It's and we found a fairly clever way to do it so you're not hammered with exposition. All you need to know is he was a British secret agent who can do all kinds of crazy fighting moves, sweet kicks and stuff like that. And once you've got that down, we give you everything else. You've pretty much got it.
Excellent. Well, cool. Any final thoughts on Ninjak that you'd like people to know before we end this part of the interview?
Well, let's see. This first storyline's going to be a year long, extra dope, and no, I can't think of anything. It's like you'll be able to get it as soon as you open it. I think it'll click for people, and even if you don't think you're into wacky minimalist storytelling, I think people will appreciate it.
Ninjak Daylight has a release date of 2021, so we're gonna have to wait on that for a while. But make sure to follow Jeff for any updates that he might have. You can order Jeff's other books from your local comic book shop, and as a last resort, probably from, Amazon and Barnes & Nobles, the typical book corporations that you all know about. And as usual, please subscribe to Helioscope PDX if you'd like to be notified of any more tutorials and interviews and whatnot that we have.